Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date, Saturday, June 4th, 2016. Yes, it's going to be a nice short version. They're going to be on discussing two topics. And mainly, it's first one's like the passing of Muhammad Ali and what legacy he left behind, whether it's politically and sports, religiously, etc. And so, of course, a hero with a concealed carrier was like that did the shooting that was involved in the shooting in Houston. He may have a long recovery, but it'll be mainly those two. So this one here came from the Ron Paul Institute.org. It was written by Justin Block. It came out today. It was entitled Muhammad Ali Risked It All When He Opposed the Vietnam War. As it reads here, Muhammad Ali's most famous act of social activism, one that would strip him of his best fighting years, cost him millions of dollars, forever alter his image, and eventually send him into debt, began with one offhand quote, "Man, I got no quarrel with them Viet Cong." It was March of 1966, and the U.S. military was escalating its fight in Vietnam. It began substantially lowering its standards for the draft so it could conscript more men and call up men with lower IQs for 1A service. This meant that Ali, whose army tested IQ a score of 78, had been too low for the draft in 1962, who was now eligible for unrestricted military service. The boxer died Friday night at the age of 74. Happened to hear this news while surrounded by reporters and in a classic boisterous knee-jerk reaction. "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong." He set off years-long cultural revolution. For the most famous athlete on the planet to openly decry the war was, at the time, blasphemous. When he declared his apathy toward the Viet Cong, public support of the Vietnam War was at its peak in the first 3 months of 1966. The war's approval rating was over 50%, according to Gallup. Ali cited his faith and membership in the Nation of Islam refused service and said he was a conscientious objector. The greatest risk. In a flash, Ali, already controversial for his conversion to Islam and name change from Cassius Clay, become one of the most hated figures in the country. Nobody close to Ali's level of fame had resisted the draft, and his seemingly flagrant opposition to the war made him a target of ridicule from the public, the government, and his sport. He spent the next 4 years battling for his belief and in court instead of the ring. And after his 1967 arrest for draft dodging, all of his state boxing licenses were stripped. Ali's boxing career was effectively over. For a time, Ali continued to face public pressure to accept service. During his 4 years of court battles, he was given opportunities to recant, apologize, and join the military in an entertainment capacity to perform for the troops and cameras and show off his signature persona. He declined, and some of his allies turned against him. The Nation of Islam, the same religious group that anointed him, Muhammad Ali, disavowed him for a style of active resistance, according to David Zurins, A People's History of Sport in the United States. Jackie Robinson, an athlete and activist himself during his playing years and beyond, ripped Ali for disappointing black war veterans, and by and large, black soldiers agreed with Robinson. Ali was being too radical. "He's hurting, I think, the morale of a lot of young Negro soldiers over Vietnam," Robinson said. "And the tragedy to me is Cassius has made millions of dollars off the American public, and now he's not willing to show his appreciation to a country that's given him, in my view, a fantastic opportunity." But to Ali, that fantastic opportunity was a death sentence. And moreover, representatives of the right aristocracies use of poor, often black Americans to fight the war for them. The government had the system. Where the rich man's son went to college and the poor man's son went to war, he said. Anyone who immediately came to Ali's defense put themselves in danger. In a people's history of sports in the United States, writer Jerry Eisenberg recalled receiving bomb threats and tons of hate mail because he was willing to hear Ali out in the early days of his service refusal. But in most of the media, nastiest prevailed. Unlike Eisenberg, famous sports writers like Red Smith, Jim Murray were calling Ali a punk and the white man's burden. It's actually from the Huffington Post. Justin Block here. Let's continue reading, see what it has to say here. And it continues on here. Americans rally around Ali. Ali wasn't alone for long in his anti-war stance. As his legal case continued, he kept up his anti-war rhetoric based on arguments against the systematic classism and racism decried by the civil rights movements of the 1960s. His stump speech was simple, but powerful and impassioned. I won't be used by a powerful white man as a tool to kill other people who are fighting for their own beliefs and freedoms, and neither should you, especially if you're poor and or black. The longer Ali remained free, the lower the war's approval ratings dove. Per Gallup, they immediately began to slip after Ali's I ain't got no quarrel" comment a month after that line hits the press. Support for the war slipped below 50% for the first time. 2 months after Ali was convicted for draft dodging in 1967, only 27% of Americans approved the war, the lowest point during Lyndon B. Johnson's administration. Ali even implored Martin Luther King to speak out against the war. By the summer of 1967, many Americans, particularly black Americans, were now all in on Ali, his courage and masterful promotion of his idea. After all, this is athlete who embodied self-promotion, helped the civil rights movement move forward, and the war's popularity sink. In 1968, with his court case under appeal, Ali found himself in grave financial debt. To earn money in lieu of millions he could have been making boxing, he began giving hundreds of speeches at college campuses to young audiences that would make up the vehement anti-war movement. Ali solidified himself as a peacemaker and the counterculture icon young Americans yearned for. After years of appeals, the Supreme Court overturned Ali's conviction in June 1971. By then, states had begun reinstating his boxing license. His view of the war became America's view of the war, and people were ready to see their hero back in the ring. And after 3.5 years, he returned, beating Jerry Corey in October 1970 in Atlanta. Ali's unmatched athlete activism. Ali told Ali's significant career sacrifice and what it stood for radiated across the country, and no athlete has had such a marked social impact since. 50 years after Ali said he had no quarrels with the Viet Cong, professional athletes speak out admirably on social issues. Most notably, LeBron James wore an "I Can't Breathe" shirt in December 2014 to support Eric Garner's protest, but they don't really face the risk Ali did. Today's brand focused business athletes athletes generally choose to make ornamental political standards with shirts, t-shirts, plain accessories, and social media posts, and not put their careers on the line with their activism. Simply put it, there's too much money at stake in today's modern sports culture. Choosing to sacrifice nearly 4 years of one's career seems unthinkable, no matter the cause. The peak time for professional athletic performance is between 25 and 27 years old. And that's when star athletes receive their large contracts. Ali was sidelined for that period of his life. Late civil rights movement leader Stokely Carmichael perhaps put it best as quoted in Zurin's book. Of all people who opposed the Vietnam War, I think Muhammad Ali risked the most. Lots of people refused to go, some went to jail, but no one risked as much from their decision not to go to war in Vietnam as much as Muhammad Ali. As the real greatest about greatness, as can be seen in fact, despite all that was done to him, he became even greater and more humane. His humanity, that's where Ali's true greatness lies. Sports fans can say we were robbed of Ali's true prime, but society gained something much better, a leading voice against the class and race issues that intertwine with one of the deadliest foreign wars in U.S. history. It's a real nice, intriguing article written by Justin Block. And it came up from HuffPost Sports originally. So I'm going to say it from Ron Paul Institute. It's going to be on Huffington Post. So that would be fair enough. I remember reading a lot about that during the time and watching video footage when people call him a draft dodging Negro and all that derogatory comments. One thing he stood for, too, he was against involuntary servitude, which is under the 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. That's one thing folks got to really start looking at on there because draft is a form of involuntary servitude, a conscription being forced. And this is why the U.S. Supreme Court knew he was Mr. Ali or Mr. Clay was correct. And it's put it right here from the archives here, archives.gov. I'm going to use that, add that to the memo. And the abolition of slavery. I'm not going to use that one. I'm going to use something else here. One moment. I'll make this real clear. I'm not going to get too much in detail. But it says right here, it's from the Constitution Center, and you can read more about that particular 13th Amendment. And it says here, it was passed in by Congress, 31st, 1865, ratified December 6, 1865. And it says here, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So, and of course, Section 2, Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. So how come they didn't appropriately legislate it during the time of Mr. Clay's or Ali's and anyone else that were against the draft during this unpopular conflict, unconstitutional war? I'm not going to make condemnations on either side. A lot of people who served in Vietnam always have eternal homage for, always going to give them respect, fidelity, or eternal homage. And others didn't buy it. They see a bigger picture. They see the military-industrial complex is going to benefit and use everyone else as their pawns. That's what Ali seen it, and many others. That's why the draft ended, because it was illegal. When you think about trying to lower the IQ, they're doing it to other governmental entities. Police departments, for an example. And it's not against the police, but they're seeing it themselves. Dumb down the occupations. You got to give Ali credit because he stood up for what was right. He was a maverick for his time. And now he's forever free. I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch his shows. A lot of Muhammad, like fights with Muhammad Ali fights. He had the cartoon Muhammad Ali. I used to have a Muhammad Ali action figure, headgear, and all that. That people loved him. Many hated him. But truth of the matter is, he was a one of a kind. Inspired a lot of the boxers out there today. And this here should be part of what he achieved. He took a risk. He felt the impact, and got vindicated. Cassius Clay or Muhammad Ali, thank you for your time and your actions, and may your soul be forever free. Your legacy will not fade. All right. Next one here, will be a final one. Says here is from Bearing Arms. I think it came out yesterday. Says here, hero concealed carrier who battled mass shooter faces long recovery. Tuesday, we told you the story that the mainstream media wanted to ignore. Though heavily outgunned, a concealed carrier by the name of Brian Wilson valiantly engaged a mass shooter, armed with a rifle, allowing his fellow citizens to escape. Wilson was shot 3 times during the battle, and now faces another battle, recovering from his injuries. Friends of a Houston man who grabbed his gun and tried to stop a shooter who terrorized a Houston suburb Sunday are rallying to his side and praise him as a hero. Brian Wilson was shot 3 times, twice in the leg and once in the shoulder, while trying to stop the rampage of D.G. Wilson engaged G before getting wounded and managed to crawl to a nearby business and call his wife. He faces a long recovery and uncertain future, according to friends, who have launched a GoFundMe page to help pay his medical bills. The generosity and kind words overwhelmingly for the Wilson family. Angie Guerrera wrote on an online appeal she set for Wilson and his family. On their behalf, I want to thank you for the bottom of my heart for donating and sharing. A close friend of the family, Guerrera, told local news station KHOU said that Wilson and his wife were trying to start a business before the incident and now find himself facing an amount of medical bills. The GoFundMe page set up on the behalf of the Wilson family notes the staggering injuries Wilson sustained when he stepped forward to defend his fellow Americans. May 29, 2016 began with Brian Wilson being a loving husband, father, and son, and ended with him as a critically injured victim. With the picture being shown all over the news, Byron was shot 3 times while attempting to stop the mass shooter in West Houston on Memorial Drive. He may well have prevented more shootings in effort to stop the shooter and distract him. Unfortunately now, Byron is in the hospital, severely wounded, with both legs shot and broken, and the third bullet wounded in the shoulder. He's already undergone multiple surgeries. He has many more to go. His road to recovery is very long, and he may not be able to walk again for 2 years. Folks, men like Byron Wilson who selflessly risk their lives to save others by stepping into a fight that they know they have no realistic chance of winning are among the best of us. They are heroes of the truest sense of word. Please share this story of bravery and selfless sacrifice. You have to give him, Brian Wilson, respect. Again, another hero that may save lives. Some people may ask, how come the police didn't? How come the police couldn't do it? The police, they're better trained. Well, my friends, you have to think about this in a realistic point of view. Human natural law. You are the first line defense. You have obligations to prevent something happen if necessary. Lord willing, I don't want to see any of you guys get involved in something like this, what Mr. Wilson done. Even Charles Van Vick, that the St. James Church massacre saved over 900 lives. The terrorists had AK-47s, grenades tapped with shrapnel. How he prevented it to make it worse? Using 5 bullets of a 38 snub revolver. He took charge, taking the initiative. Many great amount of people suffered, but a lot of lives were saved. I would recommend everyone go on that GoFundMe page and donate, including myself. And everyone talks about the police. How come the police couldn't get involved? You should have called the police and let them come in. There's no guarantees, my friend. Look up sovereign immunity and tort liability. I'm going to add that link to this article. It goes to all 50 states across the board and territories, and you can take the initiative on going further. So this is how I see things. Not being Rambo or Roy Rogers or Terminator. Individuals that care about their communities, their family, their friends, their neighbors made a difference. Donate money to this person and wish him your thoughts and prayers and blessings for this family, the Wilson family. It is essential because one day, Lord willing, it can happen in your neighborhood or around your family, your friends, even enemies you have your differences with. You don't wish those any harm as well. That is all for now, my friends. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to this episode, and please feel free to download and share it throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, compliments, love letters, hate letters, or you want to send me something that's pretty interesting that I haven't heard of, whatever you do, send your correspondences with decorum, please. And I gotta say this, everyone overall have some moments, but overall 99% is great. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, and Seeing.life. Or you can email me at LokiLuck3, that's the number 3, that's all together, at gmail.com. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.